All right, let's dive into this one. You know we love Apostle Joshua Selman around here. And his sermon, It's Time to Break into Your Destiny and Solve Problems. Well, it's packed with some incredible wisdom, and I can't wait to break it down with you and see what practical steps we can all take away from it.
It's interesting how Selman really focuses on the practical steps someone can take to achieve those goals, and he doesn't really care what your background is.
That's so true. I know you've been feeling kind of overwhelmed with all the prayer requests you've been getting lately. And Selman really starts strong by saying that focusing on prayer for your own destiny should come before praying for others.
That's such an interesting point. It's not that we should neglect others, but we have to recognize that if we can align our own energy with our goals, that's going to be crucial for us to succeed.
It's almost like you're laying the groundwork.
Exactly. Creating that channel for our desires and actions to flow towards our destiny.
I love how Selman uses this image of an iron gate,
Oh,
representing those limitations that we all face, especially for those who are like pioneers. It makes me think of you forging a new path in your family by choosing the career that you have.
absolutely. Breaking through those limitations,
Hmm.
the ones that may have held back previous generations, it definitely requires a different level of prayer and focus.
Yeah.
It's not just about opening the door, it's about shattering a barrier.
Wow.
Yeah.
And he even compares it to the intensity of Jesus fasting for 40 days and nights before starting his ministry. That's commitment.
Talk about commitment. Yeah.
Even Jesus, with his divine connection, he recognized that he needed focused prayer before embarking on a major life purpose.
Right. And it's not just a biblical example either. Salmena also points out how so many successful people we see today across all different fields emphasize the importance of prayer in their own journeys to success. It's about tapping into that inner strength and getting that clarity.
Yeah, it's not just about wishful thinking, it's about actually taking action.
Yeah.
And that leads us right into Selman's next point about embracing competence and excellence. And he calls this mastery. It makes me think about how you've been wanting to level up your writing skills.
Yes.
Maybe even take that advanced fiction workshop you mentioned.
Oh, you remember.
Of course. He really challenges us to rise above mediocrity.
He does.
It's not about just being good enough.
Right.
It's about being undeniable. And maybe that workshop could be the perfect next step for you.
It very well could be.
He says, don't just aim to participate, aim to dominate.
I love that.
Yeah, and he uses the example of Joseph in the Bible, who rose to prominence in Egypt because of his problem-solving skills.
Joseph was so good at what he did that he caught the attention of the Pharaoh, which is amazing. I think it reminds us that skills and expertise are really the foundation of true success. And speaking of foundations, Selman then talks about the crucial role of discipline and focus.
Yeah, he uses this military analogy,
Sure.
comparing pursuing your destiny to being a soldier.
Intense.
It's intense.
Yeah.
He says distractions are the affairs of this life to be avoided at all costs. He's definitely not messing around.
He's not.
I feel a little called out, to be honest.
Uh-huh. I get that. I think what he's saying is that it's not about becoming a workaholic, but about strategically choosing what to say yes to and what to say no to. It's about recognizing even those good things that are in our lives that might actually be distractions from our main objective.
That's a great point. I do love that military analogy. But, could focusing too much on just pushing through lead to burnout? How do we find that balance between discipline and self-care?
That is a great question. Selman doesn't directly talk about burnout, but he does emphasize the importance of endurance.
Okay.
So it's not about just pushing through, it's about pacing yourself. Think of it more like a marathon and not a sprint.
That's good advice.
Yeah.
He actually says that a lot of people have the prayer, competence, and discipline, but they fail because they lack endurance.
They give up too soon.
They get discouraged.
Yeah.
And they don't have that mental toughness to keep going when things get rough.
He defines endurance as that ability to withstand pain and pressure while staying focused on the goal. It's about having that unwavering inner strength, to keep moving forward.
It actually reminds me of something Selman said about this law of process. He seems to believe that everyone has to be tested and proven before reaching that true success.
So basically what you're saying is there are no shortcuts.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. And I know he uses some pretty compelling examples from the Bible to kind of illustrate this point.
Oh, yeah.
Like Moses leading the Israelites through the wilderness
40 years.
for 40 years.
Can you even imagine?
I can't. Full of trials and tribulations.
Right, but It was through those challenges that Moses actually developed the leadership skills and resilience to finally lead his people to the promised land.
Okay, so that's a pretty extreme example.
It is.
Do you think everyone is destined for a 40-year wilderness experience? Well, not necessarily 40 years, but I think
Yeah.
Selman is trying to suggest that challenges are just inevitable. He also talks about all the trials of Paul,
Right.
who faced intense persecution while spreading the gospel. It's a good reminder that even the most successful people encounter adversity in their lives,
Hmm.
but it's their ability to persevere that really defines their legacy.
So if we're talking about this law of process, what does that mean for us, in a practical sense? What
Yeah.
can we take away from that?
Well, Selman offers a few helpful takeaways.
Hmm.
First, he encourages us to see tests as opportunities for growth, not punishments. So it's about reframing challenges as stepping stones rather than roadblocks in our way.
Wow. That's a really powerful shift in perspective. I know you've had some major career changes recently. Have you found yourself applying that kind of mindset at all?
Absolutely.
Mm.
Especially when I transitioned into a completely new field. There were so many moments where I felt lost and just uncertain, but I really tried to embrace those challenges as learning
I
experiences.
love that. And Selman also reminds us that true success takes time, you know? We need to respect the process and understand that there's wisdom in the journey itself.
It leads to his third point. We should develop a deeper appreciation for the journeys of other successful people.
Right.
You know, it's not just about admiring their achievements. It's recognizing the sacrifices and struggles that they went through to actually get there.
Instead of getting discouraged by comparing ourselves, we should be inspired by those stories.
Exactly. It goes back to what we talked about earlier with endurance.
Yeah.
Success is rarely a straight line.
Yeah.
It's a winding path full of ups and downs.
That's a good way to put it. Speaking of pitfalls, Selman warns us about two common traps, making excuses and trying to violate that law of process.
Yeah. He really encourages us to be honest with ourselves.
Yeah.
I mean, have you ever caught yourself making excuses for not pursuing your goals?
Oh, totally.
Like blaming a lack of time or resources or support.
Yeah, I've definitely been there.
It's so easy to fall into that trap.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side, sometimes we try and rush the process.
Yeah.
We try to skip those essential steps, and then we wonder why we haven't achieved the results that we were hoping for.
Right. It's like trying to bake a cake without following the recipe. You're probably going to end up with a disaster.
Exactly.
He emphasizes that there's a natural order to things,
Uh-huh.
a time for sowing and a time for reaping.
And by respecting the process, by embracing those inevitable challenges, we really do set ourselves up for greater success.
I love how he seems to emphasize that inner transformation as a prerequisite for outer success. It's not just about what we do, it's about who we become in the process.
It's about cultivating those qualities of character, resilience,
Mm-hmm.
faith,
Yeah.
that allow us to weather the storms and really come out stronger on the other side.
It's almost like Selman is saying, don't just wish for a better life, become the kind of person who attracts a better life.
Exactly.
Well-
And that brings us back to this concept of the fire, of testing. Selman uses this powerful metaphor to describe how God uses intense pressure to refine and purify us. It's about burning away the impurities that are holding us back.
He really brings it to life,
Yeah?
with this vivid imagery,
Yeah.
comparing personal growth to cooking,
Oh, yeah.
Raw meat needs to be cooked to become palatable, just like we need to go through the fire to reach our full potential.
He talks about a chef, skillfully using heat, tending the food, turning it, adding different ingredients, and patiently waiting for it to transform. It's not just a random process.
Yeah.
It's a deliberate and skillful transformation.
And just like there's no shortcut to cooking a delicious meal, there's no shortcut to developing character and resilience.
You got it.
It takes time, it takes heat, and it takes a willingness to endure the process.
And this is where that mental toughness, that endurance we talked about, becomes crucial. It's about trusting the process even when it feels uncomfortable.
Selman even challenges the listener directly.
He does.
He says, if you knew that enduring a period of fire would refine and prepare you for greater success, would you willingly walk through it?
What a question, right?
I know.
It really forces us to confront our fears and resistance to discomfort.
Yeah.
I mean, are we truly willing to embrace those challenges, knowing they're shaping us for something greater?
And he doesn't stop there. He follows it up with another really thought-provoking question.
Yeah.
What fire might you be facing right now? And what valuable lessons can you learn from it?
It encourages us to look at our current struggles not with despair, but with a sense of curiosity and potential.
It's like he's saying instead of dreading those tough times, what if we actually viewed them as opportunities, to
Mhm.
find hidden strengths and learn valuable lessons?
Absolutely. And that really brings us back to the importance of perspective. If we just see challenges as punishments, we're probably just going to try and avoid them or get crushed by them.
Yeah.
But if we can start to see them as chances to learn and grow, then we can face them with courage and a sense of purpose.
Yeah. It's a small shift in mindset, but I think it could make a huge difference in how we handle things. It really reminds me of what Selman said about honoring the process. Sometimes I think we get so fixated on the end goal that we forget to just appreciate the journey and everything we learn along the way.
So true. Think of it like climbing a mountain. You know, the view from the top is incredible, but it's the climb itself, the challenges, the perseverance, all of that makes the victory that much more rewarding in the end.
Yeah, you're right. It's not just about the destination, it's about the whole experience. So, as we kind of wrap up this deep dive into Apostle Selman's message, I want to circle back to something he said that really stuck with me, that idea of willingly stepping into the fire. What do you think he meant by that?
I think he's challenging us to kind of embrace challenges, knowing they have the potential to transform us. It's about shifting our perspective from, fear and doubt to faith and determination. It's about appreciating the journey just as much as we appreciate the outcome.
That's such a powerful way to look at it. It's like he's saying, don't just exist, live. Embrace the fire, embrace the process, and embrace your own incredible potential.
Exactly. He reminds us that we all have a unique purpose,
Mm.
a destiny to achieve, and it's often through those fiery trials that we discover our true strength and resilience. It's a message of hope and empowerment.
It is. It's like he's giving us permission to go after our dreams, knowing that the challenges we face along the way are actually shaping us into the people we need to be to achieve them.
I think that's a great takeaway for our listeners. Remember, you have everything you need within you to break into your destiny and create a life that is both successful and truly meaningful.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. And until next time, keep seeking, keep growing, and keep unlocking the secrets to fulfilling your destiny.